Blake lively appeared on The View, expecting a light conversation about fashion, her new film and motherhood, but what unfolded shocked both the audience and millions watching live. Dressed in a crisp, tailored suit and radiating her signature charm, she settled in alongside the panel of outspoken co-hosts. The initial exchanges were warm, filled with compliments and playful banter. But as the segment turned toward more serious issues, celebrity activism, wealth inequality, and Hollywood's influence on politics, the tone began to shift. Blake responded thoughtfully at first, but a pointed question about performative advocacy set the stage for what would become a televised confrontation that erupted into a fiery dispute, culminating in one of the most unexpected exits in daytime TV history. It started when one host questioned the sincerity of celebrities. Speaking on global issues, "Don't you think stars sometimes use causes to stay relevant?" she asked. Blake blinked, caught off guard. "If using my platform for awareness bothers people, maybe they should examine their silence," she replied. What? The audience applauded, but the host continued. "It just feels curated," she pressed. Blake leaned forward. "Or maybe it's called being responsible." Another host jumped in to mediate, but the exchange had already sparked tension. Blake's expression grew sharper as she clarified her work with children's health and sustainable fashion. The first host, unfazed, said, "But isn't luxury sustainability a contradiction?" The air tightened. Blake adjusted her mic, visibly annoyed. The audience sensed the temperature rising fast. Blake took a deep breath and responded. "It's easy to criticize from a couch," she said. "Try building something from scratch while being scrutinized every step of the way." The host smirked. "No one's denying your work. But people wonder if it's about legacy or likes." Blake replied, "Why can't it be both? Impact and influence aren't mutually exclusive." The conversation escalated quickly. Another co-host tried to pivot to lighter topics, but Blake stayed locked in. "People like me have visibility," she continued, "and I refuse to be shamed for using it." The host responded, "It's not shame, it's accountability." The audience murmured. The studio's cheerful vibe had fully dissipated. Lively crossed her arms, her voice calm but cutting. "Accountability doesn't mean interrogation," she snapped. The next moment triggered the shift no one could reverse. One of the co-hosts, shifting from tone to tactic, brought up Blake's past fashion brand and the controversy around pricing. "You talk about equality, but sell dresses most women can't afford," she said. Blake's jaw tensed. "That's called business," she answered, "and I don't apologize for employing people ethically." The host countered, "But is it ethical if only the rich benefit?" Blake raised an eyebrow. "Do you ask male entrepreneurs that? Or just the women?" The crowd gasped, clapped, and the host's smile froze. Blake added, "I know what this is. I came here for a conversation, not a courtroom." The moderator tried to jump in, but Blake was already removing her mic. Room fell dead silent. Blake stood up, composed but furious. "I respect questions," she said, "but not ambushes." She turned to the audience and gave a short nod. "Thank you to those who listened." Then she turned toward the panel. "This isn't journalism, it's judgment with makeup on." And just like that, she walked off stage, live on air. The audience was stunned into silence before erupting into nervous applause. Producers scrambled, cameras panned awkwardly, and the host looked shell-shocked. The moderator called for a break, but the clip had already gone viral. Twitter blew up with hashtags like #BlakeStormsOut, #TheViewMeltdown, and #MicDropLively. Within 15 minutes, every entertainment site had picked up the story. With headlines spinning the moment into instant media history, the fallout was immediate. Fans praised Blake's poise and defended her stand against what they called thinly veiled attacks. Others argued the hosts were doing their jobs. Talk shows and YouTubers dissected the segment frame by frame, debating who crossed the line first. Clips flooded TikTok with dramatic music overlays. Some users posted, "She didn't walk out, she walked up." Others called it a masterclass in composure under fire. Meanwhile, The View's official page released a bland statement. "We respect all our guests and their right to speak freely. Sometimes emotions rise. We wish Blake the best." But behind the scenes, producers reportedly scrambled to control the narrative. Knowing the moment would live forever in internet lore, Blake remained silent for 24 hours. Then posted a single black and white photo of her walking off set with the caption, "Respect isn't optional." It amassed millions of likes in hours. Celebrities jumped into backing her with solidarity posts, others warning about the rising toxicity of public platforms. One actor wrote, "Blake did what we all want to do when media crosses the line." The post sparked new debate about the blurred lines between dialogue and drama. Some called it a publicity stunt, others a powerful protest. Meanwhile, ratings for that View episode soared. It was replayed on every major outlet, from late-night comedy to serious political commentary. For days, the name Blake Lively was everywhere for reasons no one had expected. The co-host who'd clashed with Blake defended herself in an interview. "It wasn't personal," she said. "She came with answers. We came with questions." But viewers weren't convinced. Polls showed a significant majority siding with Blake, with words like graceful, intelligent, and unapologetic dominating comments. In follow-up interviews, Blake clarified that she didn't regret walking out. "I'm not a brand," she said. "I'm a human being who has every right to say enough." The statement resonated far beyond celebrity circles. Advocacy groups began using the moment in messaging about media accountability and respect for women in public arenas. For many, Blake's walkout wasn't drama, it was declaration. Weeks later, the event was still referenced in think pieces and podcasts. One essay titled "The Day the View Got Too Real" described the segment as a collision between real-world sensitivity and old-school media tactics. Another called it the perfect storm of modern celebrity, gender politics, and daytime television. Blake, meanwhile, returned to work, promoting her projects on platforms of her choosing. When asked about the experience again, she smiled and said, "It taught me how fast honesty can make people uncomfortable." Her response was reposted thousands of times, turned into quote graphics, and printed on protest signs at women's leadership events. She hadn't just walked off set, she had walked into cultural symbolism. Months later, new generation of talk show guests referenced Blake's moment as a standard. "If it ever gets to Blake Lively in The View," one joked, "I'm out." But behind the humor was a shift in the culture. Interviewers became more aware of tone. Producers coached panelists more carefully. And somewhere in a glossy magazine spread, Blake Lively continued to thrive not because she conformed to the narrative, but because she rewrote it. In the history of talk show clashes, hers stood apart not as a meltdown but a message. Not as outrage but ownership. She didn't storm off in anger, she left in power. The silence she left behind echoed louder than any argument ever could.